Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Speak Your Piece. I'm your host, Ronnie Q. Today we're going to talk about something that a lot of times goes discussed but undiscussed, and that is reconciliation among siblings or friends. Oftentimes, we find ourselves in a space where there comes either a controversial moment or contradictory moment or a confrontational moment in our lives with the ones we call friends or family. And oftentimes, you know, grudges are born to the point of where there's just constant arguing, constant bickering, constant just confrontation on all sides. It gets to the point to where they're not even speaking to one another. And then years go by, and then more years go by, sometimes even decades. And then you forget about what you were mad about, but then you realize that person that you cut off from your life, you think about them, they're on your mind, they're in your memories, often triggered by a song, a vision of sorts of yesteryear and a place or something. Just triggers a memory. And then you flash back to what used to be. And then the nostalgia kicks in. Suddenly you find yourself wondering, hey, how's that person doing? Or what's going on with them? Or I wish I hadn't, fought with them. And often, sometimes it becomes too late, and you lose that friend or that family member, and you never got a chance to either come together and reconcile, or you never got a chance to say I'm sorry, or you never got a chance to patch things up. Um, and by then it's too late. I'm not saying that someone who's done something really heinous to you deserves a second chance, but it's the little arguments that turn into something big, that get blown out of proportion, and somebody's feelings aren't being recognized, someone's feelings are being minimized, someone's thoughts are not being heard, someone's thoughts are being ignored. I mean, it comes to that. And it's usually over something that's probably this big that could be easily resolved. But when two people are so, righteous in their belief systems, and they're so, hardcore, just dedicated to what they believe in, they often clash. And the clash of ideals is a constant in life amongst humanity. And oftentimes, I think that, especially amongst siblings, oftentimes that clash becomes so overwhelmingly hard, and it becomes so just detrimental that you lose touch with that one person you were once upon a time so close with. A brother, a sister, a cousin, an uncle, an aunt. But suddenly you find yourself on the outside looking in. I can speak from experience that I've cut off a lot of family members because I felt like I was wronged. And I felt like I was, you know, treated like like my space didn't matter. But oftentimes, after deep reflection, I find that maybe my reasoning was sound, but I at least could do things with civility and not with anger or rage or insultation or bickering or anything else. But I think sometimes we need to take a step back and realize that everybody has their own ideals, their own thought process, their own system of understanding, and we can't expect, nor should we have an expectation of someone following our ideals just because we think we're right. Even if we know we're right, we're not always right in the eyes of others. People are different that way. It is our differences that somewhat unify us because We all have our own ideals. We all have our own way of going about things. We all have our own way of coping. But I think the problem comes in when someone is so self-righteous and so self-absorbed in their and the way they're thinking, they ignore what someone else feels. And I think that we sit on pride so much that we don't care about anything else surrounding us because we think personally that everything revolves around our way of living, our way of existing. And if you can't find a balance where you can at least find some equal footing, some equity in the way you exist with people and the way you coexist with people, I mean, you're gonna find yourself by yourself. And sometimes you end up being the one stigma that's all to yourself. And you can set aside all the moments you want, but you can't get back what you broke. Especially when you know you're wrong. Especially when you know that this is something you can fix. Now I understand, you can call somebody pig-headed, hard-headed, stubborn, just belligerent, or just problematic. But oftentimes we need to study or try to study or understand where they're coming from. But on the same token, you also have to believe what the other person is the same way. You got to come to their understanding as well. There has to be equal footing and equal ground to at least, compromise on. If you're not willing to compromise on anything in your life, then why would you compromise on having a stable friendship or having a stable relationship with your siblings or stable relationship with someone you care about? Why would you not do that? If you're willing to compromise on that, something that actually brings you joy and happiness, but you're willing to compromise on that, but you won't compromise on principles else? You won't compromise on the principles? And elsewhere? It's sort of a conundrum of sorts. It's confusing to others because one minute you're in agreement, you're sharing a moment, you're sharing the outcome, the idea. Next minute you're contradictory of your own space and saying something else. I don't think that's a comfortable existence for anyone. So unless you find a middle ground or a halfway point, you will be isolated. And trust me, all those people say, I'm fine by myself. Yeah, you're fine by yourself, but you also crave human connection. Human connection is important to all of us, whether we like it or not. It is something that we desire. It is something that is innately in us. And if we can't come to terms with our own prideful ways and our own arrogance, the cycle of just being isolated away from everyone else is going to continue. And then that one person who you confided in as your brother, your sister, your friend is gone. There's no coming back from that. And by then it's too late. Wake up, people. We don't have to be in different divisions. We don't have to be divided, period. Wake up. This has been Mighty Q. Speak your peace. Like, subscribe. Instagram, TikTok,